Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the webinar on leveraging mobile to hire the best of the 21st century talent in partnership with Pearson TalentLens. I am Shweta from People Matters, and before speaking about today's agenda, let me get you through today's topic. According to global surveys, 70% of high potential employees are drawn to organizations with a mobile recruitment option, and 75% use mobile devices for job search. Candidates across levels need the flexibility to complete job application on the go and recruiters to compress hiring cycles. Organizations in their talent hunt are looking at ways to harness the reach and power of one of the most ubiquitous technology, mobile telephony. In short, mobile recruitment has the potential to change the game for recruitment in India in a fiercely competitive talent acquisition environment. This webinar will take a deep dive into leveraging the power of mobile in recruitment and explore its benefits. The webinar will focus on impact of mobile usage in daily life, candidates' perspective, India's current mobile recruitment landscape, where recruiters stand, inclusion of mobile in recruitment strategy, challenges and benefits, and evolving your recruitment practices to align with 21st century talent. Let me now introduce you to the speakers for the webinar. We have the privilege of having with us Rajeev Menon, Senior Talent Strategy Advisor, Pearson TalentLens. Rajeev is an independent talent consultant and Senior Talent Strategy Advisor for Pearson TalentLens. Over the past 10 years, he has helped 100+ organizations innovate their talent recruitment and assessment strategies. With his rich experience in new product design, use of technology for workplace assessment and sales, Rajeev has a deep understanding of talent management challenges faced while recruiting talent in organizations. In his past roles, Rajeev has worked in Meritrax Services, Wipro, and Coast India. As a thought leader, Rajeev regularly writes on measuring talent for organizational gain and speak on best practices that organizations can adopt to refine their talent recruitment strategies. Our partner for today's webinar is Pearson TalentLens. Backed by 8 decades of science, Pearson TalentLens offers leading assessment and learning solutions to help organizations identify and develop talent and build a 21st century workforce. With Pearson TalentLens solutions, organizations create an organizational culture that fosters critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity in the workplace. We have saved time for you to ask questions at the end of the webinar. For those attending the live webinar can submit their questions anytime during the presentation through the Q&A tab. We will try to respond to as many questions as time allows. So, yet again, we have a very exciting agenda for today. So, without any further delay, I am going to hand over the webinar microphone to Rajeev. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and welcome all to this 1-hour session where I will try to take you through some of the existing benchmarks on mobile recruitment, some of the challenges that we face, and why mobile recruitment could be the real way in which assessments can be made far more efficient, and probably the only way in which most of the assessments would have, or evaluations and recruitment would happen in the next couple of years. So all of us have been, if there is one particular technology that has really changed our lives in the last maybe 10 or 20 years, it would definitely be the mobile. And the mobile has moved from being a device to handle telephone calls all the way to almost being an extension of yourself. There is hardly any work in today's world that you cannot do without the help of the mobile in many cases, and in many cases it helps you ease out the entire process itself and makes it far more easier to conduct the entire process. If you look around you, and I think the last couple of years have also seen the explosion of probably the invasion of mobile in every aspect of our life. In healthcare, for example, obviously there are other examples, but we've just kind of chosen some of the key examples in each of the sectors. An app like Practo gets about 4 million searches a month from 1.5 million users, and it's growing at a significant rate of 30% every quarter. Similar is the case with banking. The last time I stepped into a physical bank was probably about a decade ago. Most of my work, including everything from bank transfers to getting salary credited, everything is being done today on the mobile. And therefore, banking specifically here, because of the high amount of security and sensitive data involved, is a clear benchmark in terms of how mobile has surpassed the technology issues around security and created a fair amount of confidence in users to continue to use mobile for many of the banking needs. Third is retail. Last couple of years, or maybe probably the last year, you would have seen a surfeit amount of retail invasion into all of our lives, most of it through the mobile. Everything from ordering groceries to your daily supplies to ordering bulk purchases, everything is being done on the mobile. Many organizations like Flipkart, for example, Myntra, for example, went mobile only a couple of years ago, although they did change the strategy back a few months ago. But if you really look at it, there is a reason why there is so much of focus on mobile, and that's because mobile has become pretty much the fourth element after food, shelter, and clothes for many of us. The travel industry is expected to be $7 billion usage of mobile with a CAGR of 25%. You literally look at multiple other situations as well. Medical help, for example, or medical advice is on mobile. There are apps today to help you parenting. For example, you might face a situation where you have a problem parenting a child. You just log onto the app and chat to the counselor completely anonymously. So there are multiple examples of how mobile has pretty much pervaded our lives and has made life that much simpler for us. There are critics of this who would claim that the smartphone has probably made us dumb, but having said that, there is so much efficiency that it brings to our lives by using this one particular technology. Just today morning, I was just browsing through the papers, and as I was preparing for this webinar, I came across an article which spoke about how many new companies in India are trying to use short videos of existing employees as a way of attracting talents. The article goes on to explain that there is so much of engagement that's happening on the social platforms that they have gone ahead and created small videos of the average employee in their organizations, ask those employees to forward it to as many contacts of theirs as possible. Now, obviously, what is happening here is that there is a clear realization that there is a fair amount of consumption of services on the mobile, and people are, in a sense, addicted to the mobile itself, and therefore, what better way of reaching out to potential customers, in this case, candidates, than the mobile? And they're using this in a very powerful way to reach out to candidates. So being an employer of choice is critical to companies, and to attract and retain talent is the most important aspect of that. Again, other reports that show the next slide that you look in front of you actually shows the average percentage of a kind of a split bit of mobile usage patterns across various users. And it clearly shows that mobile is used for multiple purposes, from self-expression to discovery to preparation or planning for upcoming activities through apps that help you put various agenda items onto the calendar and helps you to remind you, to accomplishing various end objectives like managing finances, health and productivity, and of course shopping, which many of us are fairly familiar with. And the largest segment, the second largest segment, without too much of doubt, is for socializing. We have multiple social media platforms today, like Twitter and Facebook and many others, and we use it regularly, almost probably a couple of times every hour. Most of us use the mobile and get into the social media platforms to connect and interact with friends and network with others. But there is one large chunk there, about 46%, which is marked in blue, which is typically me time. What does me time mean? Me time is where people are using mobiles to do activities that help in relaxation, entertainment. They're watching videos, they're playing games, they're watching movies, reading gossip websites, reading newspapers, for example, and even doing window shopping. Now, this is a large chunk of the time that they're exposed to the mobile, where they're doing many activities that are not necessarily very important. Now, this is a large chunk that many of us in the recruitment industry can actually tap into. Just imagine a situation where someone is going through a website, there is a pop-up ad that comes about your company, he clicks on it, he sees probably a video of the company itself in terms of what it offers as an average employee, the kind of facilities they enjoy and so on and so forth. So he's very excited. And let's assume this is a candidate who is not really an active job seeker, because obviously active job seekers would have gone into the other portions of the pie that I showed about to kind of accomplish. So he might get into the red part of the pie in terms of accomplishing an objective. But in the blue part, he is probably a passive job seeker. Right? He is not necessarily someone who's really pushing for a job change. But he sees this video of yours, let's say it's a 2-minute quick video. He gets fairly interested in the job or in the company, and now wants to do, and probably just think about it of him being maybe traveling by a bus or traveling by local transport or whatever. At that point of time, his engagement with the company is at its highest, and he would want to explore a little more. This is where I think the entire cookie starts crumbling in India. Most of the companies, many of the companies that we spoke to are probably not yet ready, and we'll get into some of the details as we go along. But the key point in the slide is that there is a significant amount of time being spent by the person on the mobile that can be utilized for you to build your brand with the potential employee, make him change his mind of staying put in his present company, and attract him towards your side. So now let's look at two parts. There is a traditional recruitment there, which looks at, and obviously we've tried to include all possible modes, from print advertisements to online databases, referrals, and so on and so forth, paper-based, walk-ins, emails, and these are various stages of the process itself, and then the funnel typically comes on. So as a recruiter, you would obviously understand the funnel from attracting candidates all the way up to hiring and developing them. Now, if you look at what's there on the left side, significant part of it is actually activities that require to be done outside the mobile. So, for example, print advertisements, you are then assuming that the candidate would look at a print ad, maybe in an Ascent or Times Ascent or any of the other papers, note down the email ID of the recruiter, email a copy of the CV to the recruiter, and so on and so forth. Or it could be a walk-in. You might have asked for the candidate to do a walk-in. Now, the candidate is walking into your premises without having any clue about the company. Or if it's a passive candidate, he might even just overlook the ad completely for the walk-in. Interviews and assessments. In a city like Bangalore, for example, or the National Capital Region, for example, if you're trying to attract talent from, let's say, other companies in a similar domain, the chances are that you might find many of your potential candidates in places which are at least a couple of hours of driving, a couple of hours of moving across the city for them to come to your premises. Now, if you are a passive candidate and you're expecting the person to do all this just to check out a company, it's highly unlikely that it will happen. Therefore, you are leaving a big chunk of candidates on the table. More critically, I think even if they're interested, given people's tight schedules today and the time involved in traveling between points in the city, it can lead to significant leakages in terms of people interested to people actually going through the recruitment process. Now let's go to the right side. On the right side is mobile recruitment. Now mobile recruitment is everything that you see on the left side, except that you're enabling almost every single step on a device which you can use anytime, anywhere. Now, whether you're traveling by bus back home, or you're just relaxing in the evening, catching up on a cup of coffee, or you suddenly you're flipping through some of the web pages and suddenly figure out that here's a company that might meet my requirement in terms of skill sets. All of this is being done with a view to enable candidates to get into the process absolutely anytime, anywhere. So social media sourcing, and more critically, some of the recruitment options on mobile actually help you to do beyond what the traditional recruitment modes do. For example, social media sourcing is a completely new area. There are tools that allow you to automatically parse social media and kind of arrive at the right profile for you to kind of hire. App-based registration. So if, let's say, go back to the earlier example of a candidate who's probably going by bus, he finds the site interesting, he clicks on it, it takes the candidate to the basic website of yours. From there, he goes to the client, the registration page, the career page, and from there gets into registration, he's signed up for an assessment. He gets a link sent to his inbox, which he can access it maybe after he reaches home immediately, or even while he's driving on his way back to, or going by bus or train or public transport on his way back home. He clicks on it, does some part of the recruitment process, probably even conducts a complete assessment, and we'll go into details of how some of the assessments can be made secure and the concerns could be taken away in terms of security, etc. Today there are apps and services that allow you to conduct even interviews in an asynchronous mode on the mobile itself. So if you do all this, we are talking of maybe 80% of the entire recruitment process being done by the candidate at his own convenience. And a candidate who's gone through 80% of the channel would then is highly likely to travel to do all the other stuff in terms of traveling long distance to come to your office to do the remaining 20%, and therefore leakages are highly unlikely to happen. Of course, there are a couple of points there which you presently at least requires the candidate to be physically present. For example, maybe final negotiations, a final offer rollout, and of course the entire onboarding process. But if you really look at it, 80-85% of the job is completed on the mobile, and it will go into doing one critical thing for you, which is to engage with the candidate. Right? Engagement is a key word today. Every company, every supplier, every provider of services is trying to engage with his customer, and in the case of a candidate, the recruiter it is most desirable for the recruiter to engage with the candidate as early as possible in his thinking process. Now, all of this is possible. The engagement process is extremely highly probable using a mobile than in any other mode, because it is the amount of time required to switch on, get into the web page, do all the other stuff that I spoke about is much faster than doing it on, let's say, the person's on laptop or the person's on desktop or whatever. What it leads to ultimately, and that's what recruiters would be concerned about, is better sourcing, as you're able to cast your net much wider. Faster turnaround, because you get to know candidates' interests much easier, much faster. Enhanced predictability, because if 85% of the entire process is complete on the mobile, the predictability of someone turning up, predictability of someone actually joining you after turning up for his final negotiations and offer rollout is much higher. And because the entire pre-joining engagement can be done on the mobile, most people actually serve maybe 2 months or 3 months of notice period. And if you have a way in which through an app or through a platform engaging with your offered candidates, the chances are that you will have a much higher offer to join ratio, or in case of a candidate who's actually looking at some other offer, you will be able to easily spot the trend in terms of his disengagement, and you'll be able to figure out how to make the changes required to make the process a little more smoother and get him back onto your side. We study a few of the global mobile recruitment trends, and clearly many countries worldwide have gone mobile with far more gusto than probably we have. 62% of possible candidates today visit company pages on their mobile. That's a massive number. 36% research opportunities on phone while commuting, which is expected. If I have a let's say even a 10% feeling in my mind that I need to look for a different job, will I wait? And I'm spending 2 hours on the bus listening to music. Why would I not use that time to actually browse for jobs? 51% research opportunities are available during coffee breaks on the phone, and 80% research opportunities on mobile devices at home after work. In India, this is, and we'll try to draw parallels here, but in India, for example, many of the job seekers in the 0 to 4 to 0 to 5, maybe 0 to 10 years experience might or might not have their own personal computing devices at home. The only personal device that they own is the mobile, and therefore there's a high probability that they would use a mobile device to search for a job or connect with the possible employer. The next slide, the slide that I'm looking at now, that I'm presenting to you now, is actually a clear, let's say, if any of the earlier reasons have still left a doubt in your mind as to why should you go mobile, the one that is, the data on the slide clearly points out to the fact that you will be able to reach out to a large chunk of passive candidates, whether it is about viewing job opportunities, whether visiting company websites, browsing career opportunities. All of these from a global trend perspective show that passive candidates are doing all this in a fairly large chunk. And I mean, I'm sure as recruiters you'll all realize that passive job seekers in many a case are probably far better in terms of fitment than an active job seeker is. It would be a recruiter's dream to be able to reach out and engage with passive job seekers along with the bunch of guys who are actively looking out for jobs. Now let's look at some of the India trends. Now, India trends are not too different from what you saw as a global trend. First is, of course, the fact that India as a country has jumped one digital generation in terms of moving from desktops all the way to mobiles directly. Many people don't have laptops in our home. In many other categories, for example, people have probably not owned a desktop or a laptop at all ever, but definitely would own a mobile. So they have moved from a non-digital to a digital generation straight away on the mobile platform itself. Present data suggests there are more than 200 million mobile internet users in India, and the growth there of 4G devices that allow you to serve rich content and allow you to do much more than what the early generation devices do is about 200%. 70% of India's population with less than 35 years are strong mobile users. 18 to 24 years, again, these are probably big catchment areas for large-scale recruiting, are all on the side of the mobile in terms of many of the daily requirements, and therefore it makes a huge amount of sense for recruiters to cash in on this trend and make mobile recruiting their principal source of the entire recruitment process. Okay, so let's look at a couple of early adopters of mobile. So obviously the question is, if mobile is if there is a global trend that shows mobile is a good way of recruiting, if there is a local trend that's beginning to show that India is also mobile savvy, who have been some of the early adopters and what are the kind of case studies that they bring onto the table? One such company that we know of is a company called McKesson, which is a large pharmaceutical distributor in the US. The scenario that they're facing is about 2.9 million job site visitors. This is job site on their desktop this web content job site on their desktops and laptops. 21% of them were actually mobile and 79% from desktop. Large dropout rate as there was no solution for mobile users. So the 21% that went to the mobile, and that's again a large person, 21% of 3 million is close to 0.6, 0.7 million. Such a large set of people did not have an option to go forward after getting interested in the job there. The company obviously tracked this data and then said we've got to do something about it, and they then implemented a mobile solution. They implemented an app which allowed the candidate to actually go through various stages of the recruitment process completely on the mobile itself. And the result was a 56% app completion rate. So people actually got onto the app and were able to download the app, complete the entire initial pre-screening process, etc. on the app. It really improved their overall, data conversion, and a large chunk of the people who came to their career site on mobile or their website on mobile were able to go through most of the recruitment process quickly, and they were able to attract those candidates. The other is the case of a large global leader in logistics with significant presence in India. It's one of the two top logistics providers worldwide. Their background, they're looking at a talent group that had a primary demography in the 18 to 35 years age group. The cultural phenomenon with that group is that they were more engaged with mobile devices than other mediums, but clearly also because engagement of mobile was personable, engaging, efficient, and so on. So this is the data that they had in front of them, and they said, what do we do to attract them? They created a small 90-second mobile-compatible company video, something similar to the Times of India article that I spoke about a little earlier in the presentation. And clearly, the 90-second mobile video was able to provide a message that was far more powerful than a half-a-page text. So much so that they were able to attract a much large chunk of people onto the career website, and then they were able to kind of process them and get the best talent possible there. In India, these are obviously the two cases that I spoke about are international cases. In India, for example, companies are adopting mobile, and some of the companies are leading or are at the forefront are people like Citibank, Accenture, and HCL. And the Economic Times ran an article a couple of months ago, which saying that they are literally turning to mobile apps and social media to rope in the best talent. Clearly, the past few slides clearly point to the same trend as well worldwide. So when we saw all this, we said, why is it that, and we also want to do a quick study ourselves to figure out what is the actual state of mobile recruitment beyond the top few companies. So we conducted a survey. We conducted a survey to understand the entire landscape specific to India. We did a survey of the TL leaders, talent acquisition leaders. We went to job seekers. We also did a pilot on our own app. Pearson has a mobile app called Hire.me, and we'll talk a little bit about it towards the end. We did a complete survey to figure out where we were in this entire landscape, and clearly with so much of benefits accruing to mobile, the one would have thought clearly that there's a huge transition of the present recruiting practices to mobile. The fact that came out and hit us fairly starkingly is the fact that only about 16% of the people that we surveyed said that they were actively pursuing mobile recruitment currently. Obviously, that's a shocker of a number, right? With all the benefits that are there, and I don't think these are any secrets anymore in terms of benefits. All these benefits are there for everyone to see. It was fairly surprising to see to get this kind of a number out, that only 1 in 6 recruiters that we surveyed are actually talking of an active mobile recruitment strategy. So we decided to go a little more deeper into the details. So we asked them what are the top 5 priorities for recruiters in 2016, and no surprise, it's pretty much been the same over the last 3, 4, 5 years. Most of them, at least most of the points are faster turnaround time. The time available for recruiters today to hunt for a profile and close the offer is a constantly decreasing time, where in the past people would have the luxury of a month and a half to close an offer. Today it's in days, and in many cases it's even in hours, as in the case of e-commerce retail. Reaching out to a wider talent pool. People were coming back again and again, hitting a wall in terms of saying that, hey, look, our conversion rates are not improving. And given the conversion rates being static, a larger demand for jobs can only be met either by increasing the pool itself or by doing something else that will improve the conversion rate. Third is creating a positive talent brand. Today, it's literally an employee's market. Most of the employees have enough and more choices once someone decides to look for an opportunity, and assuming, of course, that they have some basic skill sets, the number of opportunities that they have in the market is humongous. And if you have to stand out in that market and make yourself prominent, then you need to create a positive talent brand. You need to engage with the candidate. And how do you do that? The fourth priority, many of the recruiters said, is digitizing and automating the hiring process. The numbers today are so large. There are multiple facets of a person that you need to analyze before hiring him. There are huge data points that you need to collect, and talent could virtually come from anywhere. And in line with the earlier 3 points of faster turnaround time and reaching out to a wider pool, etc., digitizing and automating the entire process was key priority as well. And the last was using analytics for hiring decisions. Today, using at the global level, people have begun using stuff like Watson's analytics to kind of zero in on the kind of profile that they would want to hire, because this again comes from the fact that the cost of a bad hire is constantly increasing. Recruiters and companies can afford to make very, very few mistakes today in terms of hiring the right profile. And the more the inputs that you're able to get about a candidate, the better it is. So while you have the CV, the interview, and the assessment, there is a huge amount of digital footprint that many of these candidates are leaving on the social media network, etc. That using analytics on many of these data points is probably a very wise decision in identifying the right hire. So therefore, recruitment needs to shift gears. There is a clear understanding among recruiters about the benefits that mobile recruitment would bring to them. From a faster turnaround time, 83% said that clearly we believe that mobile would improve our turnaround time 69% said that we can access a much wider talent pool than we are doing today. 58% said that talent branding is a futuristic better talent branding and projecting as a futuristic organization is easier on the mobile. access to tech-savvy talent, which 63% said that's the. I would have expected that number to be a little higher, but then 63 is not a bad number in terms of acknowledgement that the tech-savvy talent is probably easier to access on the mobile than anything else. Having said that, what is it that really hinders mobile recruitment to be a part of the key strategy? And if you look at the data that I'm presenting now, it clearly shows that only 16% is looking at a current mobile recruitment strategy, and there is 39% who are saying that we are not even looking at a mobile recruitment strategy, despite an overwhelming acknowledgement of the benefits that mobile recruitment brings to the process. The other thing that came out very strongly in the survey from the candidate side is that candidates prefer to apply for jobs at the same time when the usage of mobile is the highest. So essentially, candidates saying that candidates are looking to apply for jobs when they are traveling between home and office and over the weekends. If that's the time that people are trying to look for jobs and apply for jobs, the only device that is easily available with them and which you can quickly bring to life with a flip of the hand is the mobile device. And if you don't have on the other side a mobile-friendly website, a career page, and the rest of the recruitment process built on the mobile itself, then you're losing out on the candidate itself. Can we afford to do it in a time when there is such a crunch for good talent is a key question that we need to understand. So with so much positives on mobile, we are trying to figure out from the TA leaders, why is it that so few of them were indulging in a mobile recruitment strategy? And clearly it came out that the number one reason for it is candidate impersonation. Many of them came across and said that, look, we know that our present mode of validating candidates itself is bad. On the mobile, we are not sure how good or how bad it's going to be. We believe that it's probably going to be worse, and it will be easier for candidates to impersonate because we don't even know who's on the side. We would rather, obviously, compared to someone coming onto your premises, the perception would be that if someone is actually interacting with you on the mobile, you really don't know who the person is on the other end. The facts, on the other hand, that we want to present to actually bust this myth is that everything, for example, assessments, which is one of the key filtering points in many recruitment process, have built-in tools like fake detectors. There are ways in which assessment companies or credible assessment tools can provide an indication of whether this is the candidate, whether the candidate is genuine or not, or the candidate has tried to fake, or it's a fake candidate whose profile is not actually the same as the one that you have shortlisted for the assessment process. Most of the mobiles today have a front-facing camera that allows you to do intelligent remote proctoring and control. There are service providers, there are apps, and there is technology that allows you to build a remote proctoring layer on top of your assessment engine. Either assessment engine or even while filling up the form, for example, you might want to turn it on and constantly observe the candidate and see whether any impersonation is happening. There is also ecosystem support. Many of the mobile phones today have voice and finger biometrics embedded in them. Finger biometrics is now becoming more and more common. Over a period of time, voice biometrics is going to be the order of the day, and you will find many phones that have all of these enabled in them. And the last is, of course, specific to the India context, is the huge support on Aadhaar that we have. Aadhaar today has more than 90% of the population, at least the target population, completely enrolled on it. And Aadhaar and the government of India is actually making it available through select service providers, the entire authentication of candidate data. If all of this can be built together, then the point about candidate impersonation is probably just a perception issue and not necessarily reality. And that's the first point. Second, technology adoption barriers. Many recruiters said that we don't even know whether some of the audience would be in a position to handle technology, whether they'll be able to go to multiple sites in the app, and so on and so forth. But if you really look at data, it says that 70% of high potentials are drawn to organizations with a mobile recruitment option, because it probably also gives many of these candidates the feeling that the company is technologically savvy, is willing to consider our convenience of being able to apply and go through the recruitment process within the confines of our time and location. and therefore they are more attracted to companies that have a mobile recruitment option. 75% of high potentials use mobile devices for job searching. 40% prefer text messages or email, and this is just statistics to say how savvy many of the potential candidates for you are on the mobile technology platform. The next one is, there's some more data on the technology adoption itself. Again, a repetition of or a reinforcement of the earlier slide. It said 77% are viewing career opportunities that are sent to inbox. 74% visit a company site to learn about careers. All of this is happening on technology. So there is no issue with technology adoption being any prime obstruction for you to start providing this for your end customer. Inadequate mobile penetration, connectivity, these are issues that many people have raised as key obstacles, saying that, even if I do all this, what's the guarantee that with the state of, technology in India in terms of connectivity, my potential candidate will have a seamless experience. The answer is, again, in terms of data, India ranks third among countries with the highest internet penetration, of which 50% of job seekers access the career portal on their mobiles. Availability, there are two ways of looking at it. Many apps today are optimized, and I'm not talking of just mobile or recruitment apps or recruitment enablers, but many other applications today are optimized for 2G, because 2G being the more widespread of the technologies is a reality that people can't miss, and waiting for 4G to completely come and sweep over the entire connectivity landscape is just sitting and biding time. So therefore, app developers have gone ahead and made their apps far more optimized for 2G usage. Second, by using an app or by having a career app, there is a good possibility that you will be able to do a large chunk of the process completely offline. So once it's downloaded, there is a bunch of things that you can do offline without connectivity, and then when the connectivity comes back, most of this data or all the data can then flow back into your site. Handset compatibility issues. I think from the days of yore, we now come back to fairly standardized handsets in terms of it being either an Android or an iOS or a Windows mobile app. There are only three possible compatibility problems in terms of operating systems. In terms of sizes too, there is a fair amount of standardization between the 4.5 inch to about 5.5 inch being the standard size for a smartphone, whether it costs 4,000 rupees or it costs 70,000 rupees. I think there is a fair amount of standardization that's coming in as well. More critically, as a company that is creating the app, you can actually test for many of these various configurations before releasing it into the market. On the Pearson TalentLens HireMe app, for example, Hire.me app, for example, we have already tested it on a whole host of devices which vary in size, which vary in operating systems, which vary in versions of Android, and so on and so forth. And we found seamless usability across all these variations. We also, as I said, apart from the survey, we actually did a pilot of using the Pearson app, and we found 3 or 4 very strong data points from the candidate side. Candidates said that 93.5% of candidates said that the app is very easy to use. It's fairly intuitive, as is the device. The mobile device itself is fairly intuitive, and it makes the process of transition from a non-technology person to a technology-savvy person far more easy. 90.3% said the app was easy to download. It's really today no-brainer. Many people who have hardly ever used any other form of technology are easily able to go to the Play Store and download apps. People enjoyed using the app. It can make life much more simpler in terms of application. They could complete a significant part of the application process before and at the comfort of their location, at the comfort of their time, etc. And it's very convenient to use as well. At the base of the presentation slide are some screenshots. As you can see, there is a bit of proctoring enabled. The app is optimized for various questions, and the entire thing makes it far more lively than what it would if you were running a staid test engine on a desktop or a laptop. How is the recruitment landscape going to evolve? And from Pearson, we've been studying various trends. We clearly see 4 to 5 different changes in the way recruitment will happen. Pre-evaluated or pre-rated candidates are going to be the norm. Essentially, given the fact that there is no more dependency on location for hiring, there is no more standardized pre-fitment stuff like saying that only certain people can apply for a job. Pretty much, many jobs are open for various kinds of job holders. The only requirement would be for the job holder to prove that he can actually do the job, and that can happen through a pre-evaluated or a pre-evaluation or a pre-rating process. How this is connected to the mobile is that many of these pre-rating processes, many of the evaluation processes are today going onto the onto a mobile-enabled platform. More critically, it will be very easy for such apps to get linked to your ecosystem if you have the ecosystem ready to accept input from a mobile device. Just-in-time hiring will be the order of the day. This will also mean that if you're a recruiter, you need to have access to the dashboards and the data and inputs from the hiring managers almost on a real-time basis. And again, what better way to do it than to do it on an app rather than waiting for the recruiter to open up his laptop, connect a data connectivity tool like a dongle, go into the site. So that if you cut out the whole cumbersome process of having to do all that, and if you provide dashboards on mobile for recruiters, recruiters would feel their efficiency going up significantly. Increased use of non-verbal measure of skills and abilities. Many of the non-verbal measures of skills and abilities involve involve tools that require touchscreen capability. Mobiles provide you that, and therefore implementing assessments of such nature on a mobile device is fairly simple. The world is definitely going to move ahead in terms of the assessments itself used, from the multiple choice question kind of an assessment scenario to real games and simulations. Clearly, I think there is a clear acknowledgement everywhere that if you simulate a real job scenario and get the candidate to go through that as part of the assessment process, and see how the candidate is able to do that, it is a far better predictor of the person's ability to do the real job than any other assessment in the traditional format can do. The challenge so far has been the amount of cost involved in creating simulations and building reliability and validity. Assessment companies like Pearson, for example, are working very hard to build simulations and games that with world standards of reliability and validity. And most of these are available on mobiles. You are used to seeing people playing mobile games. Mobile is a wonderful tool to play simulation games. And therefore it provides a perfect environment for a simulation or a game-based assessment as well. And from a recruiter perspective, there is a whole bunch of real-time analytics that can be accessed on the mobile platform. And I think some of these trends dovetail very smoothly if you have a mobile recruitment strategy, if you have enabled the various aspects of your recruitment process on the mobile itself. Obviously, as with any change, as with any transition, there is a bunch of stuff that you need to check before you go wholly mobile. One, the first and the most important thing would be to figure out whether have you optimized your career listing to be viewed easily on the mobile. Many people think that there is not much work involved. It's just about enabling usage of the career page on the desktop. If that can be easily, if people just type in the same URL, you can see it on the mobile. But optimizing it for mobile size, auto optimizations, etc., are various stuff that you need to do. You also need to ensure that in many cases you might need to edit the content itself to make it mobile friendly. A very text heavy mobile interface will make it very tacky and less intuitive to use. Shorter resume forms, you might want to collect resumes that are much more shorter, much more sharp and to the point. Also allows for easy uploads, even if there is a data connectivity issue. Assessments with items that are mobile friendly. Again, this is another huge mistake people make, saying that it doesn't really matter. I just have to use all the assessment items that I have in-house, whether it's presently on paper or on the old desktop version. I just have to push it into the mobile assessment platform and it'll run. The answer is completely no. The reason is you will need to ensure that someone who is using a mobile for assessment versus someone who wants to continue to use desktop for assessment are not discriminated against in any way. Both of them should be able to answer the question with the same amount of mental faculties as the other. A typical case in point, on a desktop screen, you might have a question that has got a large amount of text. For example, it could be a massive data interpretation question. By transferring the same thing onto mobile, you will make the life miserable for the mobile test taker. You will need to figure out how the items can be modified to fit a mobile page. There are again people like Pearson who are in the business who can do that for you, or you might have your own experts who can actually ensure that the mobile interface runs the same way as and doesn't discriminate against anyone using a paper-based or a desktop-based assessment. You need to clarify security and safety features. You need to ensure that your IT team has built in enough safety security features. You build the traces or the trails to ensure that you have the complete log of what the candidate has done during the recruitment process, so that anyone comes back to you saying that, I did the test, I don't know why it's not appearing on your website, or I don't know why you've not got a result. You'll be able to show them that, hey, here's the data that clearly proves that you did take the test or you didn't take the test. Making the entire thing thumb-friendly. One of the key points of a mobile device is the ability to use, your thumb then becomes the most powerful tool for using various features on the mobile. By keeping the right icons at places where your thumb can reach on the mobile, etc., becomes an important point. For example, if you keep the let's say submit button or the enter button or the next question button for an assessment on the top left corner, or if you have a CV upload page and you have a submit button at some corner where the thumb can't reach, then you're making life difficult for the candidate. Finally, if you are using an external ATS, applicant tracking system, is it mobile optimized or is it just fitting your career side at this present point of time? These are the set of checks that you need to look at your existing mobile stuff for you to kind of move ahead smoothly. Why embrace a mobile recruitment strategy? One, clearly because you want to make it a candidate first approach. I think we spoke about it, the 90-second video, short video about the company, the use of analytics to reach out to the right candidate, objectively appraising skills, keeping candidates engaged after making offers. All of this is much better on a mobile than on any other mode, and therefore the focus is clearly on the candidate first approach here. So that's pretty much what I wanted to kind of present. Clearly, the world is moving towards the mobile recruitment, not just as an option, but probably the most preferred option. There is a thought paper that we have on mobile recruitment. You can log on to the URL provided there, and you can pre-book it there, and we will send it across to you. It will provide a fair amount of inputs into how you can actively push your mobile strategy. Thank you very much. That's pretty much what I had to say. I think we've got about 10 minutes for questions. More than happy to answer once I start receiving them.
Great. Thank you so much, Rajeev, for such an interesting session. And yes, we have a lot of questions, so I will not take any further time. The first one is coming from Peter Edward. So he says, what are the types of pre-engagement functions that can be used in a mobile platform?
Sure. So I presume by pre-engagement you're talking about candidate. So there are two places where you need an engagement with the candidate. One, before the candidate can be offered, or before attracting the candidate. Second is after offering, before the candidate is coming to join. Now, in the former case, where you're trying to engage with candidates who are possibly passive candidates, etc., it could be short videos of how life is interesting at your place of work. You can then use, you can use your own network of employees to push it to their friends, etc. It is easier for an employee to actually just quickly forward a 90-second crisp, concise video to their network rather than them having to either explain it to so many people. Today, as you can see, people post or push forward all kinds of videos in, for example, WhatsApp. Now, one way of engaging with your potential candidate base is by videos, is by maybe quizzes, You can constantly conduct quizzes and challenges and ask people to solve it. You can then attract them with people who've solved that. You can then figure out whether they're interested in a job with your company and then process it forward. So that's on the pre-sourcing side. And the pre-joining side is even more interesting. You could create a complete social platform for all your people, all the people that you have offered and who are in the notice period with the previous companies. You can send tidbits about the job. You can send them some pre-joining forms to fill up. You can keep a track of important events in their lives and send them maybe e-vouchers and so on and so forth. All of this will ensure that and you can clearly track whether someone is using it. By using analytics, you can figure out whether someone is actually doing that, logging in, providing answers. Disinterested candidate would not be doing that, and therefore you will be able to quickly get a red flag on from such candidates and try to take corrective action so that you don't run up with a surprise on the day when the candidate is expected to join.
Sure. Thank you, Rajeev, for answering that. So moving on to the next question. This is coming from Weber. So he wants to know, how do I build a mobile recruitment strategy that involves social media sourcing?
Oh, absolutely. That's a very good question. I think social media sourcing is probably the one set of talent that will get impacted the most using a mobile recruitment strategy. Details, of course, I mean, we are there to help you. You can write to us and we can provide you inputs on how you can build it into your overall recruitment strategy itself. But one of the key ways I would think is, there are today tools available that can trawl the net, do analytics and figure out who are the candidates who are. So, for example, I mean, you might be able to post a video on Facebook, and depending on the click-throughs that you get, you can then reach out to such candidates and see what their interest levels are. Typically the same strategy is followed by many other industries, including retail, for their consumers. I don't see a reason why why recruitment has to be any different. It's the same stuff. You have a demand, you have a supply, you have a set of consumers who are spoiled for choices. The more you're able to engage with them, the more you're able to get them to spend a minute on your web page, the chances are, or a mobile recruitment page, the chances are that the person will get completely attracted to your company.
Perfect. Thank you so much for answering that. And we have so many questions, so I'm going to move on to the next one, which is coming from Ridhima. So she says, how is the output received from the games or simulations being built into the app different from that of any behavioral assessments taken up by the candidate before joining?
Right. Now, behavioral assessment typically, traditionally has been in the multiple choice mode, or at best it could be pictorial mode. What is happening today is that you are trying to simulate a situation where a candidate has to exhibit a particular behavior. For example, it could be a completely immersive game where the candidate is doing a bunch of activities, trying to go from point A to point B, etc. And you could put up very, very simple, sensitive challenges along the way. You could even check how sensitive the person is towards gender equality, how sensitive the person is towards helping others, and so on and so forth. And all of these can go as inputs depending on what action the candidate took. It can go as inputs into building the behavioral profile of candidate. There are tools today that are available and there are people trying to make efforts. It's not a fully evolved industry yet in terms of using simulations for behavior, but there have been quite a few efforts, and many of them are beginning to bear fruit. I don't see too long before we see simulations in games as a standard way of evaluating multiple facets of the personality to ascertain fitment to a particular job. So this is how games are being built today. In colleges, in schools, for example, in business schools, for example, there is a simple game called Markstrat. It is a complete simulation game today that's being played on the computer. That's now being adopted to mobile because it's easier for the candidate to access the entire game. And depending on various actions that the person takes to go from to accomplish an activity, just like in a video game, for example, the end objective is to beat up 40 soldiers or go from 3 to 4 places and conquer kingdoms and so on and so forth. Each of this involves real action that you need to do if you are put in that place, and it's not about a static question which you're imagining in your mind. You have to keep doing it, and each activity that you do will trigger further questions or further scenarios for you. So it's like an adaptive kind of a module that comes in, and therefore the assessment becomes that much more powerful. Therefore, and that's why simulations is the way many of these aspects of job readiness will be measured in the future.
Right. So the next question is from Sarika, and she wants to know, do we need to approach inclusion of mobile in recruitment in any particular sequence?
Yes, the answer is actually yes, because if you really look at it, a candidate is highly likely to land up at your career page first. So your career page being mobile and friendly is important. The next would be whether the candidate is able to upload a short resume or is able to upload an online application form using a mobile. So is it optimized for that becomes the second stage. Third would be if there is a process of elimination or selection using assessments or interviews or any other mode, and whether all of this is applicable on mobile. So these are actually sequential, and therefore it is important that it goes in the sequence and you don't build just one part separately. Having said that, many of the companies would be using either their own internal tools for many of these processes or use external vendors. Therefore, the key part there is to ensure that you have compatibility between the various modules. So you could already have an ATS system, application tracking system, but you might not have the rest of the stuff on the mobile platform. You might have a second vendor who is willing to provide a mobile assessment engine. It is important for you to check whether both these things are compatible and then kind of plug both of them in together.
Sure. Thanks, Rajeev, for answering that. So the next one is coming from Neha, and she says, while we talked about the large setup and their apps, how mid-sized captive units can leverage mobile platform?
Again, a very good question, and as we go along, while there will be maybe in the next few years, we'll see 3 or 4 of these giants growing bigger in size. The larger growth is going to come from the small and medium kind of enterprises. The numbers are going to grow, and each one is going to grow in numbers as well. The answer to that is, you as a recruitment team, you need to take a call on whether you want to build everything in-house or do you want to take the help of outside specialists. Today, there are enough and more providers of various services along the recruitment life cycle. There are people who can provide integrated end-to-end recruitment cycle on the mobile. There are people who can provide plug-and-play modules. You might want to use any of the 3 approaches in a toggle kind of a way, depending on what you're willing to spend. Many mid-sized companies would have the issue of how much can I spend and what can I do. I think the option for them would be to start engaging candidates. At the end of it, if you sit on the question of saying that should I buy a complete platform or rather should I use someone else's service or should I build everything internally, you might get in a situation where the end objective of actually catching up with the candidate, engaging the candidate is lost. The first objective should be to ensure you figure out a way of reaching out to the candidate. It might be that you will say that it doesn't matter, I have enough resources, I will quickly build a mobile platform which I can use to engage the candidates, or you might say that, hey, look, this kind of investment at this point of time is not possible, so let me look at service providers. Both of these approaches are very, very viable. As I said, the key things to consider is whether there is compatibility between various service providers, whether they have past experience of having actually handled large recruitment assignments and so on and so forth. With all these basic structures in place, you could pursue one of these 2 strategies.
Thank you so much, Rajeev, for answering that. And we have so many questions, but due to paucity of time, we are going to take just one last, which is coming from Mr. Shetty. So he says, we already have an ATS or HRMS system in place. What are the factors that I need to keep in mind before implementing a mobile recruitment strategy? And how does this mobile recruitment strategy solve my sourcing challenges?
Sure. So first part, when you're saying that there is an ATS already in place, the key question to ask is whether the ATS itself is mobile ready. Now, it could be that the ATS is built internally or it's built by an external source. If it is built by an external source, it could also be that they already have mobile-friendly platform, mobile-friendly version, which obviously has not been implemented because it is not asked for. The first thing would be to ensure that gets done. Second, given that just having an ATS alone on the mobile and the rest of the strategies offline doesn't really help the process, you need to then figure out either the same ATS provider building the other modules or using existing providers to provide plug-in modules. The key question there to ask is, does the ATS allow API integration with other modules? If the answer is yes, I think you should go ahead and actually get all those the modules together and build the entire system end to end. And the second question, how it will improve sourcing, I think we went through it briefly in the presentation. Apart from your traditional sourcing pools, your sourcing pool gets enhanced by access to social media, social profiling, referrals, and more critically by enabling this large chunk of passive candidates to come on board using a mobile recruitment strategy.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rajeev, for answering that last one for us. And with this question and answer session, we are going to wrap up today's webinar. Once again, we thank today's webinar partner, Pearson TalentLens. Also, our special thanks to our speaker, Rajeev Menon, for this webinar and the invaluable information that he has shared with us today. I would also like to thank everyone in the webinar audience for participating in today's presentation. We will come back to you with many more. So with this, we conclude today's webcast. Thank you all and have a great day ahead.